Welcome back. If you're in your 40s or 50s and your hair feels thinner, drier, or like it's shedding more than it ever has before, you are not imagining it. And no, it's not just aging. And no, it's not just genetics. Midlife hair changes are deeply connected to hormonal shifts, stress regulation, sleep patterns, and metabolic changes. And most women are never taught how these systems connect. Today, I'm going to walk you through what's actually happening inside the follicle during perimenopause and menopause, and what you can realistically do to support healthier hair without panic or extreme measures. Because this phase is not about decline, it's about recalibration. Let's start with something foundational. Hair doesn't just grow. Each strand comes from a follicle that follows a biological cycle. There are three primary phases. First, the anagen phase, which is the active growth phase. This can last anywhere from 2 to 7 years in healthy conditions. Second, the catagen phase, a short transition stage. And third, the telogen phase, which is the resting and shedding phase. At any given time, about 85 to 90% of your hair is supposed to be in the growth phase. Now here's what changes in midlife. As estrogen and progesterone fluctuate and eventually decline, the growth phase can shorten and more follicles shift into the resting phase at the same time. That means more shedding, sometimes noticeably more, and thinner regrowth. That's why it can feel sudden. You brush your hair and think, was it always this much? Sometimes yes, but often not. Let's talk about the part nobody explains clearly, miniaturization. When estrogen declines, follicles can become more sensitive to androgens, another group of hormones that both men and women have. This sensitivity doesn't mean something is wrong. It means the follicle responds differently. Over time, that sensitivity can cause the follicle to shrink slightly. When follicles shrink, the strands they produce become thinner and shorter. So even if you technically still have hair growing, the volume decreases. That's why your part might look wider, or your ponytail feels smaller, or your crown looks flatter under certain lighting. It's not disappearing overnight. It's gradually producing finer strands. Now let's address shedding. Normal shedding is up to around 100 hairs per day. That's part of the natural cycle. But during midlife, shedding can temporarily increase, especially after stressful events. And this is important. Shedding is often delayed. If you went through a high-stress period, illness, emotional strain, or sleep disruption, you might not notice hair loss until 2 or 3 months later. That delay makes it confusing. You think nothing changed recently, but biologically, your follicles responded earlier. Stress raises cortisol levels. Elevated cortisol can push follicles prematurely into the resting phase. When those hairs are released later, it feels dramatic. Now let's zoom out and talk about the 3 major drivers of midlife hair thinning. First, hormonal fluctuation. Estrogen helps extend the growth phase of hair. When it drops, growth cycles shorten. Second, cortisol and nervous system regulation. Chronic stress doesn't just affect mood, it affects hair biology. Third, metabolic shifts and inflammation. In midlife, insulin sensitivity often changes. Blood sugar spikes can become more frequent. Those spikes increase inflammatory signals in the body. Inflammation affects the microenvironment around the follicle. Hair follicles are highly metabolically active. They require steady nutrient delivery and oxygen, which brings us to something very practical: oxygen and iron. Hair follicles need oxygen to function efficiently. Iron helps carry oxygen through the bloodstream. Even mild iron deficiency, not necessarily anemia, can slow regrowth. Many women experience lower iron levels over time, especially if diet changes, digestion shifts, or absorption decreases. This doesn't mean everyone needs supplements. It means awareness matters. Now let's talk about protein. Hair is primarily made of keratin, which is a protein. If protein intake drops, which can happen unintentionally in midlife, the body prioritizes vital organs over hair production. Hair is not essential for survival, so if nutrients are limited, hair gets what's left. That's why balanced meals with adequate protein are foundational. Not extreme dieting, not restriction, stability. Healthy fats also matter more than most women realize. Estrogen influences oil production in the scalp. When estrogen declines, natural oil production decreases. That can make strands feel drier and more brittle. Healthy fats, like olive oil, fatty fish, nuts, and avocado, support cellular structure and scalp health. Then there's sleep. Growth hormone peaks during deep sleep. Cortisol drops during consistent sleep cycles. If sleep becomes fragmented, which is common during perimenopause, repair slows and stress hormones remain elevated. Poor sleep doesn't just make you tired, it affects regeneration. Now let's discuss the scalp itself. Hair grows from follicles embedded in the scalp. The scalp is living tissue. If the scalp is inflamed, irritated, overly dry, or clogged with buildup, the follicle environment becomes less optimal. This doesn't mean aggressive scrubbing or constant product switching. It means gentle cleansing, occasional scalp massage to increase circulation, and avoiding excessive tension. Tight hairstyles, constant pulling, harsh brushing, all of these add mechanical stress. Your follicles are already adapting to hormonal changes. They don't need additional stress. Now I want to address a myth that quietly hurts women. The myth is, if my hair is thinning, there's nothing I can do. That's not accurate. There is a difference between reversing genetics overnight and supporting a healthier growth environment. Support looks like stabilizing blood sugar, eating adequate protein, monitoring iron levels if needed, managing chronic stress, prioritizing sleep, treating the scalp gently, avoiding extreme dieting. These are not glamorous. They are foundational. Another myth, it's just aging. No, it's hormonal recalibration. Your body is adjusting to a new baseline. And here's something important emotionally. Hair changes in midlife hit hard because hair is tied to identity. It can feel like loss of control. But this stage is not about decline. It's about learning what your body needs now, which may be different than what it needed at 25 or 35. Your biology has shifted. Your strategy must shift too. Midlife hair thinning is common. It's physiological. It's understandable. And when you understand it, it becomes less frightening. If you're experiencing shedding, thinning, slower regrowth, or texture changes, I want you to ask yourself, has my sleep changed? Has my stress increased? Has my nutrition shifted? Has my body gone through hormonal transition recently? Hair is often a signal, not a failure. If this video helped you understand what's happening, I'd love for you to comment below. What is bothering you most right now? Is it shedding? Is it thinning at the crown? Is it dryness? Is it slow to regrowth? Because the more we talk about this openly, the less alone women feel during this stage. Midlife is not the beginning of the end. It's the beginning of understanding your body differently. And understanding gives you power. Thank you for spending your time with me today. If this brought you clarity, make sure you're subscribed because we're going to keep breaking down midlife hair health in a way that actually makes sense.